Janet Ioli, and you're watching Power Talks, wise words from wise women. In this video series, powerful women at the top of their game share their wisdom and their experience with you. And I am thrilled to have Elena Christopoulos as my guest today. Elena is a commissioner in the city of Santa Monica in California, and she has over 20 years of experience as a sustainability and political consultant. She has managed over 40 successful political campaigns throughout the world, and her goal is to get more women in politics. So, Elena, thank you so much for being here today.
It's really my honor, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So I wanted to start out, and I always start this out by asking you a little bit about your leadership journey, because we all have a story. And so can you share a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. It was almost, some could say, accidental. I am a scientist and I'm an engineer. And in university, I had an idea to put up a urban turbine, wind turbine. I grew up in Europe. I'm Greek, and you say my name lovely, and because you're Greek,
right?
yes,
That's
yes,
awesome.
yes. I mean, not many people do. And I appreciate that. And so I wanted to create this green space, so this green energy. And so I thought, what's better than a wind turbine? It's a beacon of renewable energy. It's beautiful. So I ended up doing that, taking with an amazing team, diverse team. Ended up taking 256 homes off the grid, feed and tariff, which meant that if you had extra energy, you could sell it back to the grid and get money back. And this was, 20 years ago, which I thought, hey, this is easy. And 20 years later, but not so easy.
Right.
And I had finished the project, and a gentleman had come up to me who was going to run for mayor of Toronto. And he said, Elena, I saw what you did with the wind turbine and some of your other environmental work. Would you like to run my campaign? And a couple of the first things I said was, no, I have no political experience. I don't have a political science degree. And, I went on and on. And he said, I'm asking you, right? So you can continue and say, no, but I really admire you did an environmental campaign. Environment is really core to what my campaign is going to be about. I want a scientist on board. And can you just at least think about it? And I said, sure, I'll think about that. And I had wisdom from my past from an aunt who always said, find mentors. So at that point, I had 3 mentors, all men. I looked for women, but they're all men. 3 men, and I went to them with this story, and they laughed. And I said, "What, are you laughing at me?" And they said, "No, no man would ever say that, right?" So, Elena, most men could be 40% qualified. So you're at least 100. If you're a scientist, we're not going to go over 100%. But do you like him? Do you like his platform? Do you like who he stands for? What he stands for? If that's aligned, or you think that's where you want to spend your energy, you can divide a team, make a team as diverse, and add women. And we need your voice in politics. So we'll help you along the way. And that's how I began my journey into politics, was running that campaign, and we won that campaign.
What a story. And, it's funny that you bring that up, because I find that so often in the women that I work with is feeling like I have to have every box checked, and I have to have everything before I can just jump into something, even though you have all the skills, but how they transfer is, well, I don't have that piece of experience, or I don't have that. So that's a terrific story. So talk to me, what have you learned from that journey?
So I learned quite a lot. So from after that campaign, I took some time, and I kept getting asked to either run environmental or political campaigns. And what I did realize was, where are the women, right? A lot of times I was the only woman in the room. A lot of the times I was the only woman on the campaign. And again, the mentors said to me, who have never asked for a dime, they just said, Elena, pay it forward. And once you get to a position where you can hire, diverse voices, diverse folks, produce diverse outcomes and diverse solutions. I mean, if you're talking to the same people, you're hearing the same thing. So if you get different people in the room, that's where the magic happens. And that stuck with me. And I love science and I love politics as much. So I decided to create a consulting firm. And that's, and made sure, and I'm proud to say that 60% of the campaigns I've managed, I've hired women and people of color, BIPOC, yes.
I'm just fascinated by your story because it's just such an exemplification of stepping into your power, right? Stepping into your presence. And I have to ask you this because this comes up a lot with women that I work with, and obviously in the research about women is, did you experience any internal self-doubt that was perhaps blocking you from doing these sorts of things as you were doing it or not? I'm curious.
Good question. So internal self-doubt caused by me or caused by,
or did
by
you
other?
experience it? Who knows what it's caused by, right? There's a lot of research to show that it's caused by a lot of the environmental pressures of the expectations of what you're supposed to be like, right? So there's a lot of identity issues there. But what I'm just asking is, did that hold you back at all? Or how did you deal with that if you did have it as you approached all of this?
So absolutely, I'd be lying if I said, yeah, I just went in guns a blazing and, just Wonder Woman all the time. So, I mean, I am a natural blonde and I dyed my hair black, actually quite dark. And, I was I felt that I needed to be someone else. I needed to, I wasn't treated. I felt that was, and no, some situations, but it was me. I was like, I thought I needed to have dark hair, have that serious suit, and not be me. So really, I was one way in personally and a different way in my professional life, which until one day I went to my hairdresser in Toronto and I said, look, I'm going to Greece. I don't have a hairdresser over there. Can we get the dye out? Can we go back to my natural, which is blonde, as you know? And he said, so you're going to let the light in?
Oh, wow.
And I said, I'm sorry, and I had my BlackBerry at the time, and he said, you're finally allowing the light in and you're allowing to be yourself, right? Like you're taking your first step. And I'm thankful that this came to you. I'd never pushed it on to you, but you're stepping into your own power and you're stepping into who you are. And I'm proud of you.
Wow. I'm so glad you're talking about that, because I think that is such a dichotomy that women face, is this whole identity piece, right? And having to somehow change who they are in order to fit into a certain mold or a standard, or expectations of being more agentic and not as communal, and having more masculine qualities, etc. So I love this letting the light in metaphor. I love that. Thank you. Now, just to switch gears a little bit, you're a commissioner in Santa Monica and you serve as a political consultant. What got you interested in politics? Because you're running campaigns, but then you're in politics, right? So what gave you the bug to do that?
So, I mean, women in politics has changed quite a bit, right? And so for me, becoming a commissioner, to actually step into that role, that wasn't something that I planned on. I'm a runner. I was in Santa Monica. There were some poorly lit parks and poorly lit areas, and I didn't feel safe running. And so because of my background and knowing how to implement different lights and energy efficient lights, and so I went to the mayor at the time and I said, do you mind? I think we really need more lighting at this park. And he said, wait, you're coming to me with solutions, not problems. And I said, yes, just ideas.
Unusual, right.
Right. And I can, get the specs for you because I work on construction bond program, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, no, you're coming to me with solutions. And because we need that and we need voices, and there's an opening for a commissioner, and I'd like to get to know you better. And if you send me your bio, but what do you think? Would you like to be, you've got we talked a little more, he's like, you've got my vote. And, it always goes back to the three men and jumping into my yes. So I said, yep, you've got me. I guess now I'm going to be front and center in politics. So absolutely, with pleasure.
What a great story. It's funny, you obviously learned from the first situation to jump into it, right? What's been the most rewarding thing in this role?
A gift, if I may be candid, and the biggest gift was, gifts are sometimes you just never know when you receive them, right? And so I am a sexual survivor, and I have done a lot of work on myself through that. And being a commissioner, one of my fellow commissioners, who we probably don't we get along, but we don't see eye to eye on many issues. But she heard this, we were talking, and she says, Elena, this isn't your stuff, right? This isn't your thing to carry, and you're light in so many other things, but it's almost like this is your luggage, and you've got to let it go. And if there's ways that you can do that, and because I spoke at a girls and boys club, and I told my story, and that was the first time I did in public. Mm-hmm. And so this is my journey, right, and my healing. From then we went to Denim Day, which is 500 people in downtown Santa Monica, the first time talking about sexual survivors, and I was a keynote speaker, and I didn't tell, I spoke my story, and I was nervous, and my palms were sweating, and I just kept going, so now I'm at a point in my life too, is that, it's, and I don't want to say completely, from healing, but I can't even quantify what that's done for me, right? And for me, the healing journey of speaking my story and helping others, and, the emails and the texts, the calls that I get from other survivors who, if you need resources, or just thanking me for sharing, to coming into my truth and speaking my truth. And so being commissioner has done so much. So that's the gift of healing for me.
Would you have ever imagined that would be the result of becoming a commissioner for this, right? Would you ever imagine that?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I thought it was going to be more scrappy into politics and issues. I had no idea that there was a gift in there for me.
Yeah. And there's something in there to learn too about, as you talk, I'm hearing the vulnerability and the courage that takes to bring yourself forward, and then have other people who have experienced it. It makes it paves the road for them as well. Your own transparency is paving the way for others. Amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. And and, for many years, I again, with the dark hair and things like that, I really realized that vulnerability is strength. And, not only do I believe it, I know it to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you're an advocate for women in politics. Now, what advice do you have for women? Obviously, you were tapped on the shoulder, but what advice do you have for women who perhaps want to get into politics but aren't sure how or what to do?
So I think it's a good question. Again, I think it's very similar to other professions. I think it is networking, right? And I still think, and if that's random LinkedIn messages and asking, or on Twitter or on social media, maybe we can connect and asking, how to get in. Or now I have friends who know that I work in politics, and I can tell they've got the bug. I know they're going to run a school board one day, and, something like that. So I think if you want to do it, go for it, and, and if I take you on as a client, or if I give you just some free advice, really know thyself, right? And running for politics, running for office is one of the hardest things one will ever do, right? Be okay with your past, make amends with that, because there's opposition research, and I tell them please tell me your secrets, because if you don't tell me them, they'll come out, and we can't control the message on that. And I mean, it's selfless. It's really selfless, because there's no, you're going in it for the right reasons. You're trying to create policy for whatever you believe in. If it's the environment, if it's for women's rights, if it's for LGBTQIA rights, you're going in for the right reasons, but just it's also a thick skin, and that's something I've seen people grow into it. And at the same time, I mean, I sometimes get called things, and it's, it's like, okay, that's not about me. That's someone projecting their opinion onto me and just coming back to center myself. But it is the hardest thing to do, is to run for office.
Having to separate yourself and your, what you see, your identity. And there's also, as you bring that up, Ellen, I think about, the reasons why people do that, and really questioning what your motive is. Because if it is an ego-based motive, it probably won't turn out the way you want. At least that's what I'm hearing from what you're saying, is that it's really more of a service. And that's why it's public service.
Sure. It completely public service, but I will say that there has to be ego involved to put yourself out there, right? Like there's
in that way, right?
Yeah, right. But that's not your first ego base. You're not doing that for that, because you are serving the community that you represent, and whether you may agree or disagree with that group, you're representative of that group, right? So I think, especially with women going into politics, do you have children? Do you have time? Talk it over with your partner, your spouse, because it will take an enormous amount of time. And in the U.S., there's a lot of money in politics as well, and fundraising. And I've had a lot of clients who said, "Oh, that's okay. I can call for money." And I said, "Right, but you're calling for yourself, which is really, really hard, right? To make that call. So you do your friends and family first. Hi, I'm running for office. Can I ask you for $100? Can I ask you for 500? So, emails get lost, right? So, and some people, it takes some time, and some people are open to that and some aren't. And, everyone's got their different angles, but you're selling yourself. You are the product, right? So at the end of the day, the criticism on the product is on you. So it's really, really hard to do.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And what do you think? Do you think there are any unique challenges that women encounter as they do this?
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh my goodness. From our appearance, right? Like from what we look like, from our if we've gained weight, if we've lost weight, if she's done plastic surgery. We're scrutinized by our appearance still, and it's unfortunate. And it's, a man isn't like that still, and it's changing, but still you get scrutinized on your appearance. So really have some self-assurance and self-love and self-care of who you are, and stand in that, right? Regardless. And I think that with women as well, have a good network as well. Some women have better networks than others, and not to call for raising funds, but to actually, if you have a bad day and it's not your partner or your kids, you just have at least one or two friends that you can be honest with, and your campaign manager, it will become your therapist a little bit, as well as a very close friend. So being open to being vulnerable. I also think that even though more women are getting into politics, it's still not an even playing field. And what that means too is when you can look at women's leadership in political offices. There's not. And so if you're in office, advise other people or ask other people and help and volunteer. And women do need more help than men, and I'll say that.
And I'm not so sure that women spend as much time with the networking, or putting themselves out there too, because we're so busy, or, have a family, or all of these other obligations that tends to go to the back burner. Yet you're just a living testimonial of everything you described at the beginning was really as part of a network, somebody you knew, or a mentor, or somebody helping you along the way. At least that's what I hear when I hear your story.
Oh, yes, and I still think it's not, there's still a boys club still exists. Of course it does, and that's I learned at an early age from an aunt who passed away in grace, and she said you need to find mentors in your life, and regardless of what you do. And so I was 13. She said, not now. You don't need a mentor at 13, but you know, but it's the ability to just you know be okay with rejection, right? So, and how I look at rejection, and over the years, is that if I've called someone for advice, or I've called someone for a position, and there's been no, I don't have time, no, this, I personally look at it that it's just not the right fit for me. So the no's are great because it's just an opportunity for a yes to come in.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it. And I think women are still hesitant about reaching out, cold calling on LinkedIn, or reaching out in other networks, or female founder groups, or entrepreneurs. And I go for it. Just do it. The Nike Greek saying, but just do it. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? If the worst thing that could happen is a no, that ain't so bad.
It's so true. And even rejection is not always a no. It's sometimes it's not now, or maybe, or at another time, because I find people are very busy, and just because someone doesn't return your email or doesn't return your call, even if you try again, they may say, hey, I missed that, or hey, thank you for reaching out again. It's amazing. And it's amazing how I think we're so conditioned to assume that we're going to be rejected right away. So yeah.
Yes, and by going in with that, right? And yeah, I think, rejection, mistakes, and other things, they just set you up for success down the road, I believe, right? So, or in the right path. And you are right. And we're all connected now through technology. You don't need to answer that text right away. You don't need to respond to that email with exclamation marks and women apologizing for being 2 days late or something. There's no, things happen. And I think it's really being able to believe in yourself, and that's okay. And maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but I believe in what you say, that rejection is not failure. It's heading you towards a pathway of success.
I would assume that in your line of work, there's a piece of perception management, right? Impression management as well. How do you handle that, and the need to be authentic and be yourself, but also manage perception?
Good. That's a very good question, and it's changed a lot over the 20 years. The perception of who I am, what I do, and I think the further the more I've stepped into my authentic self and my true self and speak my truth, that's who I am, right? And so I think, I played professional soccer, and I was competitive athletes, and so the perfectionism was a thing with me. And when I let that go and just say things are going to happen, and it's it's think before you speak at times, but we're human and we're going to make mistakes, and to not be so hard on ourselves. And there's a line, we should I don't want to should on myself, right?
I love it. Yeah. And that's hard. It's easier said than done, right? Because it's ingrained, and it's a habit, and that perfectionism and even achievement orientation, those two things kind of go together sometimes. That's where women and men, but many women get their validation from that, right? And so they validate who they are by that achievement or that perfection. And so
Right.
just giving yourself some grace is what I hear you say.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. All the time. We deserve it. We
Yeah.
deserve that. Yes.
So this is obviously inspirational, and I could talk to you all day here. So, but we're winding down in our conversation. So to keep on that theme of inspiration, what inspirational quote would you offer, Elena, to the people watching this, women and men watch this, that would be inspirational to women leaders that are watching?
What I would really go with is just do it. Jump in with 2 feet, and have a safety net. And that safety net can be a network of mentors, mentees, depending on, I can't stress enough. I still have, those mentors are still in my life, touch wood, and it's just go for it. I mean, if it's a job that you feel that you're not fully qualified, go for it. And then and also if you don't get the job or if you don't get a position, follow up with an information interview of how you can improve yourself. I think life's about constantly learning, and there's so many great online classes to help with that, and pursue your passion. And it's also do what you love. And then it's, there's the saying, do what you love, and then it's not a job. But it's true. It's true.
It is
Do
true.
what you love. Yeah. And of course it is a job, but it's a career, and it's something that's near and dear to your heart, and it's passionate. You're going to excel at it.
I love it. There's something that I get out of what you're saying about when you talk about just doing it. It's about not taking yourself so seriously too.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
That's what I hear from you as you say that, right? Like everything is so like about me, and it's just doing it is not taking yourself so seriously.
Oh, I mean, I look back, the advice I'd give my 30-year-old self, and, had to wear the certain makeup and the dark hair and just very rigid, and, just all of these things, and just exhausting. I was, I was 30. Where do I get the energy for all of that? Just, have some fun with things, have some fun and some levity, right?
Yeah,
And
that's the perfect word. Yes. Yeah. So what other parting words of wisdom would you give to women who are watching this that we might not have touched upon or talked about today, or that I didn't ask you?
So even because everything is online right now still, and it might be, it will be online for a bit, reach out to people on LinkedIn, reach out to mentoring, and look for a mentor, regardless of what age. There's a lot of people during this pandemic who are changing or doing some self-reflecting on maybe doing a career change. Really look at the experts in the field, or look for and connect with them. And if you do get a mentor, have a structure to it. So if it's once a month, once a week, have that kind of set that time and be prepared, right? Because both of you are using time, so be prepared with that. I also think that women are stronger together, there's still, we are so strong together. So there's no competition, it's collaboration, right? And that's how we work well together. So, women who've uplifted me and continues to uplift, and as a white woman, especially living in Santa Monica, live in the US, making sure that if I'm on a panel and it's all white women, for example, I'll ensure that I get a woman of color, a woman representing LGBTQIA, because that's my responsibility. From the beginning is diverse people in the room create diverse results. And that's the privilege that I have. And that's what I'd like to lead with.
Wise words from a wise woman. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elena, for sharing this wisdom with us today. And I know that this will be very inspiring for the women who are watching this. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And it's also, you said one thing, if I may say, like about levity. Try a sport that you've never done. I'm a surfer, have fun. I play the saxophone, do stuff that brings you joy. I'm going to do, rollerblading again. I haven't done that in years. And it doesn't really matter what anyone says about your joy. If you watch, reality TV in the middle of the day for a half hour and that's your joy, you do you, right? And that's really, whatever brings you joy, find it, especially in moments like this, in these times. I really highly recommend it.
You do you. I think those are words to end by. Those are wise words. Thank you so much.
Thank you.